When the desire for revenge takes possession of them, they are drained for a time of every other feeling but the desire for revenge. Fyodor Dostoevsky. Notes from the Underground. Blood at Dawn is a 16-page, single-chapter story booklet that can be used alongside Baptism by Fire from the first edition core book. It does not feature a traditional cover or any art in it, and was packaged with the original VtM Storyteller screen, available around the same time as the core book. This is a surprisingly rare and difficult title to find these days. It is also one of the few titles not available on DriveThruRPG, even in digital format. I acquired my copy mostly through luck when asking someone selling the screen if it included the booklet. We see a new writer for this title that was not present in the core book, Andrew Greenberg. Though there is no traditional art for the title, there are a couple of maps of the primary location the story takes place in, and these were created by Margot Schaefer. I suggested in my previous video that this chapter took place after the story in the core book, but the intro suggests running it either prior to arriving at Modius's party in that story, after the events, or after Ashes to Ashes, a future title. But notes it can be moved to an entirely different time and setting if you prefer. The intro also notes that it is a story of a different style than most VtM stories will likely be. Instead of focusing on intrigue or pathos, it instead follows the great tradition begun by the blood-drenched nightmare movies of the past several decades. It is a story of terror and suspense in the face of an unknowable and possibly indestructible enemy, with a focus on the gradual build-up of helplessness in the face of such a creature. Something all the more potent for a vampire because they have a better idea of what could actually be hiding in the dark than most mortals. As with Baptism by Fire, I try to excise the idea of player characters from the story to retain as straightforward a narrative as possible, which is likely to pull a lot of the potential action and intrigue out of its telling. There will often be references to a nebulous number of other kindred that in a tabletop setting would have been the player characters. In addition, a couple of characters that were initially introduced in the core book reappear in this story. I will not re-describe them here, please refer to that video if you need a refresher. Scene 1. Passing the Torch. Alicia, the mute child of Modius, keeps a strip club known as the Torch as a haven and hunting ground. It is regarded as one of the most desirable places to feed by the kindred of Gary, but Alicia controls it with an iron fist, allowing none to feed there. Lex Talionis, the tradition known as the Rite of Destruction, does not apply to the hunting grounds, and Alicia is known to deal ferociously with any who intrude on her domain. Even Prince Modius fears to cross her, though when he found out she had been dancing at the club, he demanded she quit. Likely due in part to the blood bond to her sire, Alicia acquiesces and has decided to give up the club. She sends letters to some kindred, and also leaves a message spray-painted on the wall of one of the city's Elysium, a location declared as a safe haven, where no kindred may harm another. In this case, an abandoned foundry known as the Ironworks, which is used rarely, but has become a place for kindred to leave messages for others. Alicia has left a brief message there. "The torch can no longer be mine. If you desire it, come to me," and signed with her name. As with many things concerning the kindred, it is not so simple a thing as showing up and being granted the territory. Alicia intends to auction it off to the highest bidder. It is not clear, however, what she desires as payment, only saying she will turn it over to any group or individual who makes the best offer. Modius has sanctioned the event and insists he will enforce the rights of whoever obtains it. In a city like Gary, where the economic strife has grown even worse over the years and the population dwindles, a secure feeding place is a hard thing to ignore, and the offer has attracted a few of the kindred. The Arrival. The Torch is situated in the heart of an area in Gary known as the Rack, a once thriving business district that has been ravaged by the hardships the city has endured and is kept alive now by attracting the worst elements of Chicago's nightlife. Now home to bars, brothels, and drug dealers, it attracts numerous out-of-towners ripe with vitae, and none does so more than the Torch. Those who were invited are asked to arrive around 2 a.m. near the club's closing time. They are not greeted by Alicia herself, but by Victor, the club's manager. The kindred who enter pay the cover charge to keep up appearances, and Victor meets them, dropping hints that he knows what they are, and that the auction will take place after closing time, asking them to wait until then. The club is modeled to look like a Persian palace with arches, Doric columns, and hanging silks decorating the interior, though it has seen better days and much of the place has fallen to disrepair. Few of the patrons have left despite the late hour, seemingly awaiting the closing act, and a scan of the environment reveals that they are mostly mortal, with only 2 other kindred in attendance sitting together. One is Lucian, another current resident of Gary, while his dark-haired companion is unknown. Neither is interested in conversation and only brusquely note that they are there for the auction if spoken to. Soon, the final show takes place, a girl veiled in the silks of a belly dancer, face covered. The keen eye of someone who has seen her before may note that this is Alicia herself. She is unlike any other dancer who frequents the establishment and dances not to repetitive pop music, but to Les Arts du Printemps by Igor Stravinsky, a ballet piece from 1913. Those who know her as the unspeaking and seemingly timid child of Modius may not recognize her now. She shows a talent both for her craft and for inciting the attention of the audience, her clothes appearing to melt off of her without so much as a touch from the figure wearing them. Over the years, as she has lost the will to speak, Alicia began to communicate through dance, and has been doing so for several years now, dancing only very late at night to avoid becoming too well known. As the piece completes, and the last of her clothing, the veil, disappears, she leaves the stage to an uproarious applause, the crowd whipped into a near frenzy. Keen eyes may spot an individual near the back who leaves as soon as the performance is done. After the performance, Victor gets up on stage and announces that this was to be, quote, Queen Sheba's last performance at the Torch, as she is moving on to bigger and better things, and elicits a standing ovation for her. After this, he indicates the club will be closing, but it takes some time to usher everyone out as they seem reluctant to go, some protesting about those who get to stay. Once the last of them has exited and the closed sign is hung on the door, Victor approaches the remaining kindred and tells them that Alicia awaits them, prompting any retainers present to stay in the main room. The auction. Alicia waits at a large oak table in a half-lit room, still riding the high of her performance. It should be noted that the text describes her wiping blood sweat from her brow, something that had not been described in the core book. She motions for everyone to sit and introduce themselves. Lucian and his companion, who goes by the name Claudette Malfait, do not seem to be pleased that others have shown up. Once introductions have been completed, Alicia hands Victor a scroll, which he reads aloud. Good morning, fellow Cainites. Welcome to my last night as ruler of the Torch. I hope you have all had a pleasant evening. I am happy to see so many of you taking interest in my favorite feeding ground and haven. While many have told me how lucky I am to have sole access to such delectable treats as visit my modest establishment, I have decided to leave it for reasons of my own. Rather than abandon it and leave it open to unending conflict among the kindred, or worse, sell it to mortals, I have decided to auction it off. I am not interested in blood, money, or other such dross. Instead, I will give it to the group or individual who can make me the strongest offer of future aid. The winner will simply owe me a favor. Evil times are coming, and I might someday require your aid and your guarantee of protection. That is the only price. Thus, I am interested in knowing just what abilities you have that can assist me, and what you would be willing to do in the way of future favor. What do you have to offer me? At this point, Alicia waits expectantly for offers, using her mute nature to avoid answering any further questions. At most, scratching out a quick note for Victor to read, indicating only that she wants to be convinced of aid that can be offered that would be of value in, quote, protecting me from kindred and kind alike. Via Victor, she notes only two criteria: how capable the one in question is of helping her, and what type of aid they are willing to give. She will not encroach on the hunting ground once the deal is done, and stresses that Modius will ensure the deal is not violated. During any talks that ensue, Victor is called away by a waitress, leaving Alicia unable to communicate further for the time being. Ultimately, bids must be made, and should the other kindred present refrain from making an offer until others do, Lucian will speak up. Speaking dramatically, he declares his status as an elder who holds much power among mortals and kindred alike, vowing to grant his full protection and declaring that he will soon become prince. He speaks of punishing any that would harm her and talks of cleaning up the city and making it safe again, not allowing the Chicago's kindred to trespass upon their domain. He offers anything she could ask of him as long as it does not weaken his rule or cause betrayal of an oath he's made to another. This is a strong bid that might require pointing out flaws in it along with the other kindred grouping together to offer a combined deal in order to outplay it. An offer of multiple kindred beholden to her might be enough to entice her. Lucian is prepared to attack the credibility of any other offers and points out flaws himself. Should things become heated, Claudette, who has been sitting silently with Lucian, will jump up prepared to attack, but Lucian will calm her down. Overall, this is quite a 180 for Lucian's character versus how he's presented in the core book, where he is noted as wanting to stay out of kindred politics, being contemptuous of the sex, and being prone to actions of kindness and compassion. The implication that Lucian is well down the road of a plot to unseat Modius feels strongly contradictory to how his character is presented previously, though it does seem more fitting when considering his particularly low humanity. The body. While the discourse around the auction continues, Victor returns suddenly and addresses Alicia, a look of horror on his face. A body has been found in the parking lot, drained of blood. She glances around the table, fury in her eyes. Claudette immediately attempts to lay blame on the latecomers trying to drive the property value down. Victor speaks for Alicia, who suggests that she doesn't care who did it, only caring that it gets cleaned up before someone notices. She then promptly stalks out of the room, brushing past anyone that may try to stop her for questioning. Victor, however, will note that if the body is removed and the incident kept quiet, it will go a long way to enhancing the bid of the person who does so. After this, Lucian and Claudette get up to leave, Lucian proclaiming before exiting, "If I discover that any of you were behind this, then your agony will have no mortal equivalent." He then tells Victor that Alicia has until sunrise to consider his offer, and to make up her mind quickly before stalking out. With this, Victor addresses the remaining kindred, indicating that he must look after Alicia, but if they can resolve the situation, then it will go a long way to securing their bid as the most attractive option for Alicia. Exiting to the parking lot, the kindred find the body. The parking lot is empty of any vehicles but those they may have parked there, and the body is located to the side of the lot itself, near a clothing shop that is closed for the night. It is next to a dumpster and barely illuminated by a single streetlight. In the distance, the wail of police sirens can be heard, and they are coming closer. A quick examination of the body reveals that someone broke his back and drained him of blood. His shirt is ripped open, but his clothing is otherwise in good condition. Any particularly perceptive kindred may spot partially healed bite wounds on his arm. Searching the body while it's moved results in the discovery of a switchblade in one hand, a cameo brooch in the other, a wallet, comb, and a small, strange bag on his person. Checking the driver's license identifies him as 22-year-old Ryan Weiris. A keen or occult-oriented kindred may identify the odd bag as a spirit bag. There are a few good places to hide the body, and a nearby bar creates some issues as there are still patrons around. The best option is decidedly the nearby dumpster, though the thoroughness with which it is hidden may take an act of will not easily summoned, considering the plethora of rotting food and broken beer bottles within. Either way, the hiding place will soon be tested. Trailing Lucian. If any of the kindred present at the club decide to trail Lucian and Claudette, it proves to be an ultimately fruitless endeavor. Even should they manage to trail the elder and his companion undetected back to Lucian's haven, it becomes clear that they had no idea where the body came from and are not involved with the events that took place at the Torch. Characters. Victor Salonika. Victor is an older man in his 60s. He has served Alicia for the entirety of the Torch's existence, around 40 years. He fell deeply in love with Alicia when he first saw her one night while he was painting, but over the years that love has transformed from romantic to something more mundane. His affections now turn to the other dancers of the club, whom he dotes on as if they were his daughters. Despite his long service to her, he is not a ghoul, and this affection seems to be wholly his own, and he occasionally provides his blood for Alicia to feed on. Victor is a thin, lanky man whose appearance is more like that of a Las Vegas lounge pianist than the manager of a strip club, decked out as he is in velvet, sequins, and gold chains. He speaks with a thick New Jersey accent and has a habit of putting his arm around people when speaking to them. He keeps a shotgun and a wooden stake hidden behind the counter where he greets customers, but has never needed to use them. Claudette Malfay. Claudette is a 10th-generation fledgling caitiff from southern France. As a youth, she was passionately religious and around the age of 18 attracted the attention of a Bruja who became fed up with her self-righteous attitude and preaching. He kidnapped her and embraced her against her will, proceeding to lock her away for 7 days, ensuring that her hunger would be intense, and then released her into a convent. She frenzied, killing and draining the prioress and 2 other sisters before she came to her senses just enough to turn her rage and hunger on her tormentor. Attacking him, she sank her teeth into his throat, while he retaliated by sinking his into her shoulder. They stayed locked together like this, struggling against and feeding from one another for about 5 minutes before her recent feeding and better position made the difference. The Bruja struggled and fought to free himself, to no avail, as she drained him completely. The treatment she endured has left her with a burning hatred for all kindred, but as she believes she no longer has a soul and is damned for eternity, she has lost all interest in mortal affairs. Her only desire now is the killing of older vampires, though she knows that doing such requires great care. Claudette speaks rarely and follows Lucian's lead in everything. She currently resides with him at his haven, and though he knows her plans, Lucian intends to use her as a tool in his plot to replace Modius as Prince of Gary. His intention is to direct her desires toward the prince, and once she has killed him, he will destroy her for committing diablerie once he has taken up the mantle himself. Scene 2. Strangers in the Night. Shortly after the kindred hide the body of the dead man, the police arrive, a squad car pulling into the parking lot. 2 officers and a middle-aged man step out of the vehicle, and the man immediately starts pointing towards where he had seen the body. Though he is the one who drew the police here, it is clear upon observation that the man is incredibly drunk, and where he is directing the officers that he saw the body is not where it was initially found. As the scene progresses, more and more people arrive as the bars and clubs in the vicinity begin to close and passersby stop to see what is happening. The police, having dealt with the drunk man known as Fred many times before, had all but made up their mind about his claims before arriving on the scene. They only indulged him in the first place because of his persistence, as well as an opportunity to use their squad car's lights and sirens. Ultimately, they don't believe the story and think that the man has a few screws loose, but will perform a cursory search. A poorly hidden body could have resulted in all sorts of trouble, especially for anyone who had attracted any suspicion while the cops were searching. That would include, but not be limited to, many more cops, news crews, more gawkers, and a trip to the police station or flight from capture. More likely, though, the body will go undiscovered and Fred will get a lecture from them and instructions to go home and go to bed. As the officers prepare to leave, however, another vehicle arrives. This one contains FBI Special Agent William Shepard, who will speak quietly with the police before they leave and have his own look around the parking lot. Though he too will not find the body if the police didn't, he will find some evidence at the spot the body had actually been, collecting torn cloth and other items into plastic bags that he pulls from his pockets. After doing so, if his suspicions are not raised in the meantime, he will head down the street a ways but leave his car behind. If anyone checks on the body after this point, it will be missing. Should one among the kindred have thought to keep an eye on where it was left, they will be witness to the corpse getting up and running off before anyone has a chance to react. Characters. The police are unremarkable and average. Fred Brummel, a bit less so. Despite his general appearance and drinking problem, he was with the army many years ago and has kept himself fit. Unbeknownst to the other characters, he himself did not expect to find a body there either. Earlier that evening, he was approached by a man who paid him $500 to report a dead body near the torch to the police. Thinking it was some sort of scam that required him needing the police out of the way, Fred was more than happy to oblige. Had the body been discovered, Fred would have been the most shocked of anyone there. Special Agent William Shepard, who has been described in the video for the first edition core book, caught the scent of the whole thing by his police radio when the cops went to investigate Fred's claims. He has suspected a vampire being involved with the torch for some time, and his snooping around the area previously is one of the reasons Alicia wishes to give up the property. Scene 3. Flight of the Falcon. Once things have settled down outside, the remaining kindred return to the torch to resume the auction. Victor lets them back in, and Alicia is already sitting in the back room at the table she had been at before. Once the players address her, she waves to Victor, who thanks them for handling the little mess, and says the effort is very much appreciated. He then relays that Alicia is awaiting their final offer. Though she appreciates what they did, she still requires a bid of some sort, or she will default to Lucian's offer. The Weirdo. Before anything can be finalized, however, a loud knocking comes from the back door of the club. At first, neither Alicia nor Victor react to it, but the noise does not cease and instead becomes more insistent. Finally, Alicia motions for Victor to check the door. Waiting for him upon opening it is a young man with pale skin and long red hair hanging loosely in his face. He smiles broadly, displaying fangs, leaving no doubt that they are kindred, and Victor lets them in without hesitation. Once inside, his brusqueness immediately ceases, and he begins to nervously tug and twist at a lock of his hair, his entire demeanor completely changed, seemingly afraid of everything. His shirt has a slash in it above the navel, and a perceptive kindred may spot dried blood around the outside of it. Upon approaching him, he seems reluctant to talk, but eventually asks where his brooch is, his voice sounding like that of a small girl. They continually ask for the brooch, and note that it's theirs and they want it back, becoming more and more whiny as things go on. Eventually someone hands over the brooch found on the body, and they quickly grab it. taking a seat at the table and clutching it in their hands, stroking it softly. The kindred present attempt to question them. Over the course of questioning, it becomes clear that there is something unconventional about this individual, and various distinct personalities start making themselves known throughout the conversation depending on the line of questioning. The first, who acted like a child and asked after the brooch, is known as Susie, and she will come to the fore if the individual feels safe and the brooch or childhood are mentioned, though she knows little about the current situation. Should Lucian's name come up, she will mention that she had an encounter with him recently, but it is unrelated to the current events. Any attempts to force them to change personalities, either through force or vampiric powers, results in the appearance of Baron Whitker, who speaks with a cheesy, movie-like Transylvanian accent. He only wishes to speak of blood and vampirism. If the body is mentioned, it results in meeting Dirk McGriff, a member of the Chicago Police Department. He will be actively antagonistic with anyone who is breaking the law and discourage unlawfulness when it is spoken of. Also present under the right circumstances are Raymond Falcon, the most primary of the personalities, who is the lead singer of the Chicago-based all-vampire punk band Baby Chorus, and Evan Klein, who is the only personality that knows the others exist and understands who and what he is. With some effort, a story presents itself. Baby Chorus was meant to perform at a nearby club, but the club had been shut down and the show cancelled. The other band members could not contact him, and Raymond arrived for the show only to find the place closed up. This upset him enough that he lost his hold and Susie took over, wandering the streets of Gary singing to herself. She eventually came upon the torch and noticed a young man skulking about in the parking lot, causing Dirk McGriff to come forward and demand to know what he was doing. This act startled the young man, who whirled around, switchblade out, and slashed at him, cutting him across the stomach. The sight of the blood brought the Baron out, who immediately attacked the man, sinking his fangs into his neck and draining him dry before running off into the night. Unnoticed, the brooch had been yanked away from him during the struggle and remained with the body. None of the personalities know who the strange man was, and wound up in the encounter completely by accident. While this clears up how the body ended up where it was found, it does not explain what the person was doing there. Ultimately, they realize Raymond does not know anything else about it and proceed with the auction. It should be noted that a continuity error makes itself known here, as though the story speaks of the Baron biting the young man's neck to drink from him. When the body was inspected previously, the bite wounds were found on the arm and partially healed. Characters. Raymond Falcon. Originally known as Evan Klein, he was severely abused by his father when he was younger and developed a number of alternate personalities to help him cope and insulate him from the experience. He was found by a Malkavian who had been intrigued by the idea of such a person, and he was soon embraced into the clan. Since becoming a vampire, the original Evan Klein personality has sunk deeper and deeper into his subconscious, and the identity of Raymond Falcon has become the most prominent of them. Originally there were 23 other personalities present, but he has added more over time, making him all the more unstable. The personalities are quite distinct, with their own preferences for dress and or makeup, and can range from charmless, inhuman monsters to the sweetest person you have ever met. It should be noted that there are a variety of inconsistencies here as well, including noting that Raymond plays rhythm guitar in the band Baby Crystal, when it was previously noted that he was the lead singer of Baby Chorus. Baby Chorus is the proper name for the band, though his place in it shifts. It is unknown if this is intentional or merely further mistakes in other books. Scene 4. Blood at Dawn. Making a joint bid, Alicia will ultimately accept the offer of the remaining gathered kindred. Her only request is that they keep Victor on as the manager of the club, and notes that he will be a loyal retainer. He walks her to the entrance where she hugs him and gets into a waiting limo and leaves you to your new acquisition. Victor provides a tour of the club, showing off its various features, including the secure room in the basement, perfect for resting during the day. At this point, the text notes that the torch was not Alicia's haven, though it was referenced to as one previously on more than one occasion. As the kindred explore their new acquisition and discover some of its curiosities, the lights suddenly go out, plunging the building into total darkness. If searched out, the entire breaker box will be found ripped from the wall forcefully. Sometime after this, one of the kindred is attacked by none other than the body of Ryan Weiris that they had found and hid in the parking lot previously. The small bag found on the body was a spirit bag and tied a malevolent spirit to the body, which it is now animating. Known as Glaciabilis, it seeks to draw blood from whoever it attacks to possess them and seeks to claim hold of a vampire's body. If able to do so, it would surely seek to attack the others and drain them to gain even more power for itself. If the kindred cries out during the attack, it could draw the attention of the others present, ensuring a large battle that may be hard to hide from law enforcement that may still be nearby. But escape is also likely not an option, as sunrise is near. Unknown to the creature and the one who summoned it, it cannot stay in a dead body indefinitely, and should sunrise come while it is still in the body of Ryan, it will be pulled from the physical plane and sent back to where it came from. Should it possess one of the kindred, or even Victor, however, it will be able to stay in that body. If the body Glaciabolus resides in becomes too damaged, this can also force it out. It may also be possible to scare it through the use of the spirit bag that was recovered from the body for anyone who may know how such things work. It is also possible for Raymond Falcon or Alicia to return and help if they had been treated well in previous encounters with those present. Whatever method is taken, the creature must be stopped. Characters. Glaciabolus. The spirit known as Glaciabolus has existed for all of eternity, or so it believes at least. It is a powerful spirit that has dealt with priests and sorcerers of all sorts for time untold and lusts endlessly to take the possession of intelligent beings, willing to do anything for the opportunity. As a being of ever-shifting and immutable form, however, the spirit quickly grows bored with any body it possesses. Being stuck in a single form quickly becomes unbearable for it, and it will ever crave a new one. It cannot be killed, and even if the body it inhabits is utterly destroyed, it will simply leave the material plane instantly. Aftermath. Should the kindred make it through the encounter unscathed, they are now in possession of one of Gary's prime hunting grounds, along with a skilled retainer to run its day-to-day operations. This is not without its complications, however, as Agent Shepard is now more convinced than ever of vampire involvement at the Torch after the night's events, even if he does not have the evidence to back it up. Should one of the kindred be possessed by the spirit, if they can restrain them, it is likely the spirit will abandon the body in a few days, restoring it to its owner. Otherwise, if it escaped, then they may need to be hunted down and rescued. The true depths of the events here are not so easy to uncover, and it all stems from a single man, a magi named John Wierus. Not much more than a month prior, he came into contact with Alicia and became obsessed with her. Initially only because of her dancing at the club, but he gradually realized that she was not entirely human. Always seeking more power, he came to believe her blood would allow him to summon a great spirit enchantress known as Shezrakhan. However, Alicia spurned all of his advances and he quickly became enraged, deciding that he would take her blood by force. Using his son Ryan as a vessel, he summoned Glaciabolus to confront her and take her blood, promising the spirit that it could use her body should it grant him her blood. When Raymond Falcon came upon the boy skulking outside the Torch, and his suspicious actions prompted the events as described previously, it left the boy dead, the spirit having not yet wholly possessed him. Another persona took hold, and Falcon fled the scene, leaving the body behind. Not being aware the spirit could inhabit a dead body, John, who had been monitoring the club from a distance, and indeed was the person who left the club after Alicia's dance, was convinced all was lost, but in order to cause trouble for Alicia, he paid Fred Brummel to report a dead body in the club parking lot to the police. When the spirit finally took over the body completely and proceeded to do his bidding, John began to observe the club once more via the power of clairvoyance granted to him by another spirit. He observed the events within, seeing the kindred involved mutilate his son's body. He ultimately transfers his guilt at what he did to his son into a burning hatred for the kindred he sees. His revenge may not come personally or immediately, but it will come, devoting himself to making their existence miserable. Appendix. Spirit bags. The spirit bag is a type of foci, which is something most magi need in order to summon spirits, a spirit bag being the most common type. Its color, fabric, and contents differ greatly depending on the type of spirit being summoned, and is placed somewhere on the person who is meant to be affected by the summoning. Spirits are not ghosts and have no human memories. They typically embody a specific concept such as possession in the case of Glaciabolus, and their power varies widely depending on the strength of the individual spirit. The spirit bag John made was given to Ryan, and he was told to wait behind the club. Had everything gone according to plan, the spirit would have possessed him, he would have confronted Alicia, and once the spirit possessed her, Ryan would have returned to normal, except for any injuries sustained in the process. Should the spirit bag have been opened prior to the spirit's arrival, it would have been wrenched painfully from its journey to the physical plane and forced to arrive at the location. This results in the magi losing control of the spirit, which will take immediate vengeance on the one who heard it. The bag will do nothing if opened once the spirit is present, but it is still possible to use it to draw the spirit from its target by placing the open bag over the victim's mouth and coaxing it out through threat or pain. With that, the end of Blood at Dawn can easily lead into the Baptism by Fire story from the core book, and then on to Ashes, which will be covered in an upcoming video. Despite the inconsistencies present, this was a relatively interesting story that reveals an early look at the Magi, though it is a much different form than what would ultimately be seen in Mage the Ascension. Thanks for watching, and until next time, always remember when the dawn will come.